Hi, I'm Sayje.
And I'm DeShawn. And welcome to another episode of
Unbinding the Binary. A visual podcast where we get transparent about life, art, love, gender, and so much more.
On today's episode, we discuss the controversy surrounding Dave Chappelle's recent comedy special, cancel culture as it relates to, in the words of Dave Chappelle, the alphabet people, and if there's a way we can potentially bridge the gap for a more healed experience for all of us.
Gotta commence this healing, child.
Okay.
Got a lot to talk about, a lot to go through.
Well, let's get started. Hey, girl.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. You look cute.
Thank you. This shirt, actually, I forget the artist's name, but it's a, I have to remember, but it's an amazing artist. He made it, and I saw him on Instagram. He's actually at my friend's wedding, and then I saw the shirts he made on Instagram, and I was like, I have to have one of those. And he sent me one, so yeah.
Oh, nice.
But I'm mad I can't remember his name right now, but I will remember it and post it somewhere.
Yes. And share for the world.
Absolutely.
To see if we can cop some threads too.
Yes. I see you in your pink. Flowing and vibing.
October is almost to a close, so symbolizing breast cancer awareness.
Nice.
Yeah.
I never knew that. So the month of October is the month of.
If I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Really?
I'm like, am I bugging out? Yeah. I
Okay.
so.
I never knew that. Word. I feel like every month almost is like at this point dedicated to something. I feel like whether it's a holiday or it's somebody's history or power to the people for whatever it is. I feel like every month now is for something, which is good. I mean, we should celebrate everything.
Yeah,
always.
Give everyone their space, their time, their recognition. Right?
I still think Black History Month should not be in February though, but that's another discussion for another day.
So if you had to, are you saying that you would designate another month, or you think the emphasis should be all year round?
Good question, because initially I was going to be like, what's the longest month of the year? However, though, I do think it should be like an all year round thing, actually. I think history across the board, whether it's LGBT history, Black history, Native Americans, Asian, whatever, all history should just be all year round for everybody, because it's all about the entire human experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, across the board. Nobody's history is bigger than the others,
Amen to that.
So yeah, but I mean, what you been up to? How's your week been and stuff?
My week has been okay. It's been pretty good. Took these braids out. I was like, I need to be a little free, give my scalp a break. Preparing for Halloween. Oh,
you have any plans?
I wanted to be. What plans are like? Where am I going? What am I doing?
Yeah, like what you doing? What you planning?
There's like a couple of events that I'm looking at. I haven't decided on which one I'm gonna go to. I wanted to be Sailor Saturn for Halloween.
Oh,
yes.
Shoot.
So she's taking out the braids. I was like, okay, I'm gonna give you like this dark, gloomy bang thing going on. But I think I'm gonna be Pikachu.
Oh, that's wait.
Big difference, right? A big jump from Sailor Saturn to Pikachu.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the common thread there, but why are you switching to Pikachu? Why?
So at work, with the kids, I like to be something like child friendly.
Okay.
Okay. And so Pikachu is coming in time tomorrow in the mail. It's going to take a long time for this Sailor Saturn. I said November 2nd? No.
Right.
Halloween is done, so it's just going to be Pikachu for both events.
Cute.
For the kids and for the adults.
Oh, that's so cute. You're going to be a cute Pikachu.
I
want to see all the pictures. All the pictures. Yes. Yeah, I think Chameleon, my drag persona, is going to make her very first appearance on Halloween.
Yeah.
And we will see how that goes.
I'm excited to see.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm still trying to master heel walking, but I've got a cute pair of mod flat boots for her, so she can have her moment and not make a fool out of her at the same time.
She's not gonna fall to the wayside.
No, none of that can't happen. It would be very devastating for her. So yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see.
Okay.
I'm ready for that. She's ready for that.
So, honey, let's get into it. Into Dave and this whole...
Yes. The Oracle Shop is a metaphysical boutique located in the heart of Bushwick, Brooklyn. This shop features beautiful and energizing products for the home, body, and soul, including crystals and minerals, as well as ceremonial and spiritual cleansing supplies, jewelry, oracle cards, tarot cards, books, candles, and more. Come visit us at the Oracle Shop, located at 164 Wilson, Brooklyn, New York, 11237. I don't even know where to start, honestly. I have some thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts, obviously.
Mm-hmm. So you watched The Closure, mm-hmm. right?
So I watched that one first, but I actually went and watched all of them. I watched the first one, and then Sticks and Stones, and then The Closer.
Mm-hmm.
Closer. It might be The Closer. Closer? I think it's The Closer. But I ended up watching all three. Okay. All right, before I go, I want to know what you thought and what you watched. Like, you tell me.
So, initially, I've seen Sticks and Stones years ago, mm-hmm. When it came out. But I definitely wanted to revisit it. I was actually watching it on the train ride here. And what I will say is that the Sticks and Stones definitely gives you an initial understanding of where he is trying to bridge this gap between the comedy world and the LGBTQ, community mm-hmm. at large. But needless to say, for me personally, there were some very triggering jokes in the
Closer?
The Closer, okay. Yes, because I was saying Closure.
Mm-hmm.
In The Closer, definitely. So we'll get into that at some point. What was the name of the first one? And what in the first one was, I guess, LGBT oriented, right, that stuck out to you?
So, okay. The first one, I wrote it down actually because I had to take notes.
Take notes.
The first one actually was called Live. Where are you? The Age of Spin, live at the Hollywood Palladium. Mm-hmm. That was the first one. And so if I'm not okay, so I will say this: between all three of them, there was a common thread of LGBT jokes. Right, sure. It was like a consistent theme that was popping up in all three of his specials, and I think, if my memory serves me correct, the thing that really stood out for me is and he said this in all of his specials, but the consistent like ringing of like I am an ally, for paraphrasing, you know what I mean? Like in so many words, he was saying like I'm an ally. I have mm-hmm. no problem with the LGBT community, but his argument was always the imbalance of the inequality struggle, I guess you will, mm-hmm. versus race versus the LGBT community.
Right.
Saying that like people can say stuff about the LGBT community and they'll get shut down, they'll get canceled, but racism still exists. Mm-hmm. And that was his angle. I just think that age and generation has a lot to do with the way that conversation was being had. I mentioned to you, earlier that he has a very Archie Bunker type style of bringing these topics to, us, you know what I'm saying?
To the masses.
Right, to the masses. And not everybody can handle that now. I think that the generation, especially that he grew up in, he grew up with the Richard Pryors and the Eddie Murphys and all of them, and so
Paul Mooney, his mentor.
Paul Mooney, like that sense of humor, that very like blunt, crass sense of humor, is just what is used to actually push social commentary, though.
Yes,
and that's where there's this like gray area, and I think that again, you know, with the first in the first special, like he just kept bringing up, like, you know, I have no problem with gay people. I got a lot of gay friends. You know, he constantly refers to the trans community as the T's or whatever.
The T's.
You know,
the gays as the G's.
Right.
The bis as the B's.
Right.
Okay, we get it.
Right.
You know, and to me, it is funny. Like, I'm not gonna sit up here and admit that it's not funny,
right?
Because in that aspect, especially in the Sticks and Stones, it definitely is. We're not up here to take away from Dave's legacy, his talent, and what he's done as a phenomenon, you know, as a comedian. And I think that gray area that you're talking about in terms of jokes that are centered around the LGBTQ experience is that it's possible that we're just not quite there yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because growing up queer, it's like you were possibly and most likely always the center of the joke. You were you were the punchline, all of those things, you know, and to have to sit through a comedy segment, which does highlight some of these stereotypes, and, you know, we transform them into jokes. Comedy is healing. However, it's another space that you have to then walk into and feel like, well, damn, like I'm continuously being outcasted as this outsider. You know what I mean? So it makes us feel like we're outside of the joke instead of being in the joke. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's actually perfect segue because I actually want to read this quote. There's a comedian by the name of Sayje, and you know I love my podcast, and one of my favorite podcasts, Sibling Rivalry with Bob and Monet. They recently did a podcast with Sayje live, and Sayje is a comedian from our LGBT community, and her quote was so profound to me about comedy, and I'm gonna read it. But before I say that, I do want to just make a disclaimer that we are not experts.
In no way, shape, or form.
We are only experts in our own personal lived experiences, and which is where we're coming from.
Correct.
And so anything that we say, you know, is not to tear down the legacy of Dave Chappelle, not to disrespect anyone at Netflix or anything like that. We're just discussing our viewpoints, you know, about this very public thing on this very public forum. So I just want to make that clear before we move on. But I do want to read this quote from Sayje.
Yeah.
And she said, "Stand up is the back of the bus. Everybody's mean to everybody. There's no group that's being fucked with. And if you have the fortitude to get fucked with and still come sit at the back of the bus every day and get your fucking riffs off, motherfuckers are going to respect you. And that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes this a beautiful equalizer in the same way, because it's fucking with everybody the same way. And that's always attracted me to stand up. It's not running from the world. The world is judgy. The world is shitty. But it's also giving you the space to prove me wrong. Yeah, I may have some assumptions, but I'm giving you room to prove me wrong." Now, this is coming from a queer comedian. And when I heard this quote from her, I was like listening, and I literally was like, wow, I get it. I'm not sitting at the back of the bus, though, personally. I'm not coming to sit at the back of the bus to be laughed at.
We're not sitting at the back of the bus, honey. We're sitting at the table.
Okay, thank you. That's not for me, personally.
Yeah.
But I can understand where she was coming from, right? You know what I'm saying? And, like, we grew up, like you said, always being the butt of the jokes and stuff like that, and always being told, oh, toughen up, don't have this, you need thicker skin and stuff like that. But who wants to deal with that all the time?
Yeah, and that whole conversation about, that whole, you need to have thicker skin and all this type of stuff is like, if my skin wasn't thick, I wouldn't have woke up this morning in the body and the presentation that I did.
That part.
So I just need us to stop throwing that out there because, a lot of us, I think early on in whatever your journey may have been, and then having multiple, ethnicities or orientations within yourself, those are the layers. That is the thickness to me.
No, I agree.
To me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, how so profound because she ended with, she was like, prove me wrong, prove me wrong.
And this quote directly relates to like Dave Chappelle's sense of comedy because I was like, yes, does Dave make some very crass jokes? Absolutely. Definitely there were some moments in all of his specials where I was just like, oh my God. In the same way that I would with South Park, Family Guy, some of these things, like some of these jokes, I'm just like, how did this get past
SNL?
How did this get past the round table? You know what I mean? So I understood this quote in relation to that because you're right. Like Dave Chappelle is the kid in the back of the bus ragging on everybody, including himself. Because Dave made a joke about himself. About something that happened to him, when he was younger, that was definitely a cringe, but it was also like, it almost to me felt like I'm showing y'all like we're all on the same page. Like I'm down in the dirt with you. You know what I mean? It's just,
and he definitely is.
Yes.
To a certain degree.
Right.
He definitely is.
Right.
I mean, a lot of artists, it doesn't matter what your medium is, were bullied at some point or made fun of or ridiculed. So, I mean, he can't be this funny for no reason. He's
Right.
definitely pulling from somewhere.
Right.
Other than, the other ethnic groups and things, Jews, white people, Asians, Latinos, that he talks about.
Right.
So we definitely have to give him that, that he's definitely he's on the bus with us. Where on the bus he is maybe a different story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder. So okay, one thing that he kept saying. Another common thread between all three of the specials was empathy and us listening to each other, and like that we all are living this experience, right? But I wonder, Dave
what experience? The human experience.
The human experience.
Okay,
Experience. Yes. The human experience. You know what I mean? So like basically, like we're all here. We're all
different. Like which one we talking about?
Right. But. And I think Dave is just like, like y'all not listening. Like, and that's what it was. So in the closer, the last one. He was saying that if you go back and watch his past specials, you will see that like he is, essentially an ally. Like he was like, you're not listening to me, but I wonder, Dave, are you listening to us though? You know what I mean? Like, are you?
Such a good question.
You know what I'm saying?
Are you listening to us?
Are you? You know what I mean? Like because I think that's just important. The conversation can't be one-sided, and you have to, if you have a whole community saying please don't say these things about us, right, then maybe pay attention to that. And I know that like, yes, your comedy shouldn't be censored and stuff like that, but as a responsibility to the people that are supporting you and that love you, and if you really are an ally, then perhaps listen to what what people are saying. And if you want to find a way to joke with this community, then find a way that's going to joke with us and not make us feel like you're laughing at us. You know what I mean? If I don't know, like I wonder. I mean, even here's a question too: if Dave was gay, or you know what I mean, like, or even bi, if Dave was like, I'm openly bi, like, and I'm part of the community, or whatever the case may be, would we still be
trans-amorous?
Wait, what? Wait, please break that one down.
It's a term that's going around that is used to identify a man who is a trans attracted, a cisgender man who is trans. Mm-hmm.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay,
look it up.
Trans-amorous word, got it. Okay. whatever the case may be, would Dave's joke, if he was a part of the community in any way, right? Would we still be offended? Would there still be this uproar? You know what I mean? Like, take it to drag queens. So Sam J, same podcast, made this comment about thinking that drag queens were mean. And I know there's a couple of drag queens who have very, very lucrative careers being insult comics. Is that okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, where does the line get drawn about, like, what's offensive, who's offending, and, like, in the name of comedy to make everybody feel like, where does the line get drawn? You know what I'm saying?
I would imagine with the drag queens, they at least directly know who they're speaking to in the audience. You know what I mean? Most of the times, right. If they're, you know, performing at LGBT events or like in, you know, a club somewhere or something like that, or a ball, you know, a bar, a gay bar. I think that they more so are connected to and are aware of who's in their audience. Whereas a huge comedian such as Dave Chappelle is speaking to literally the masses of all different groups, which encompasses, you know, his work, you know, and the different ethnicities and groups that he touches upon. So I guess, yeah, the knowledge of who in fact you are speaking to is who you're on, knowing your audience is important.
Well, see, in that vein though, because Dave's audience is so broad, Dave is obviously a much bigger comedian than some of the drag queens, right? So would his audience is everyone. So does that make it okay? Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I know, I understand. I feel where you're going with it.
You know what I mean? Like, it's such a gray area, and I do feel bad because I do feel like, you know, again, not to make it an age thing, but it is a generational gap. It's a complete, you know what I mean, different generation, different sense of humor, and it almost feels like he's from this generation and he's trying to reach out to say, hey, I want to learn. And I'm with you. You know, I'm going to make mistakes, though, because this is all new to me. You know what I mean? Like, he's black, cisgender man, grew up in, like, the hood. Like, that was not, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, this is not anything that he, I mean, I don't know. You know, was he exposed? You know? Like, it can't just be that we're pulling all of this from the experiences of our friends or who we see, you know, on television. Right. Like, it has to be, you know, some exposure to some degree. And I think that's why he felt that it was important for him to speak about his relationship, you know, with the comedian Daphne, who he met at one of his shows and then eventually, you know, invited her to come onto stage and share her jokes. And he openly was like, she bombs, like, you know, for that first segment of her on stage. But then when they invited her, you know, backstage, and she was the life of the party and making everyone laugh. And I do think that it was a beautiful story that he told. But there's just so many layers even within that, to me, that just wasn't necessarily enough. Because it's kind of like, you know, the cisgendered white hetero male who, you know, may make some comments about black people that he doesn't realize is offensive, but he's like, oh no, but I have black friends. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing.
Same thing.
And I find it so funny how we can't look into those mirrors and see how the similarities between the experience within him also speaking about, you know, LGBTQ liberation and equality journey versus racism. You know what I mean? It's like he's not really paralleling them as closely as he could, you know?
I mean, I personally don't think any oppressed community should be in a versus battle of who. No. Which he touched on also, which is so interesting that, like, it's weird, like, because he had this, like, commentary, like, we're all equal, like, we should not be, you know, my trauma is not, you know, it's not a battle of whose trauma is worse. But at the same time, it's exactly what you're presenting. You know what I mean? Like, and it's, it's you know what I mean? It's so weird. It's like I don't even know where I'm supposed to be in this like conversation with you, because I'm trying to vouch for you, Dave, because I get it. Like,
yes,
I get it, but also like, I don't know.
It's like if we were gonna create a Venn diagram, let's just focus on the middle. You know what I'm saying? Let's just focus on the similarities, because I think at any given point we can sit up and just, you know, fall into tribalism and say, oh well, my people this and my people that, and which he touched upon in the closure. He said something about the trans woman that he met in the bar, and she was, you know, saying, you know, my people, my people. Was like, what does that mean? My people, my people. And they're like, but you know exactly what that means, because you have your people too. You know what I mean? But y'all,
it's what? Okay, so what? It's like, I mean, obviously this is such a much longer conversation that will not be solved by any means in 45 minutes. But I guess with all of that being said, even just the things that we did touch on, how do we move forward? You know what I'm saying? Like, for everyone, literally, not to be like corny and cliche and Barney about it, but how do we move forward?
How do we move past this?
You know,
right?
How
do
you know
we
what
bury
I mean?
it?
You know, because like there are a lot of people that immediately want to cancel him, and you know, I saw a post today on Instagram that said you can't tell trans people not to be offended about these jokes, and I totally valid, 100% valid. You know, like I said, like there were things that I just found to be very crass. Perhaps it's just my own cultural understanding of like, okay, Dave, like, you know, but not making excuses. But it's like, is Dave canceled because of this? Even though he clearly said in every single special, I am an ally.
An ally.
I'm a friend. Like, I'm here for you. Like, I don't understand, but I'm here for you. You know what I mean? Which I appreciate, especially coming from an older black, you know, cisgender man, to like from that generation,
and to say in front of the entire world,
the fact
that he's even mentioning, you know, to a degree, either negative or indifferent, you know, positive or indifferent, you know, that he's mentioning some experience of trans people. So I think with that said, let's take a break.
Yes, I
agree.
And
when we come back, we'll get into how can we move forward.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Rob, and welcome to Bingers.
Bingers is retail's newest bargain experience. View the catalog online at www.bingers.fun. Bingers opens every Friday with entirely new merchandise from the week before. Any items unsold on Friday for $10.99 are reduced to $8.49 on Saturday, all the way until all the items are only $2.99 on Tuesday. After Tuesday, we close, clean up, and start all again the following Friday. Bingers Bargain Bins is located at 1949 42nd Street, Astoria, New York, 11105. Bingers.
Okay, and we're back.
Yes. Okay, so before we go into how do we heal, essentially, I want to just give this quote from Dave Chappelle, actually, and I believe this was in the first special.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was in the first special. I could be wrong. But anyway, the direct quote from Dave Chappelle says, "Know this, if I make fun of you, it's because I see myself in you." Now, with that being said, how do we find healing for all of us, for real? You know what I'm saying? With comedy or, you know, even commentary, you know, just regular conversations where, you know, people's opinions and all this stuff. Like, how do we stop hollering at each other and start healing? Or you know what I mean? Like,
it's a good question, right? Because people heal in different ways. And so, for me, I think the most important thing would be to ground ourselves in the present. you know, and think about, look at the past and use it as a learning tool to propel ourselves, you know, to the future and learn from the mistakes that we've encountered along this journey. And because that's all we can, you know, that's all we can do. He can't and should not probably, you know, go back and erase everything that he said and apologize for everything he said, because he said what he said. and he probably meant it. I mean, he's an intelligent man, you know. But you said how to, just in general,
like I mean, with just you know, because right now, you know, there's a lot of protest against Dave. You know, there's talk of like, you know, canceling Dave, and like I even read today that a trans activist, you know, reached out for conversation, but Dave seemingly didn't want to convert. I don't know, you know, the media says, you know, media plays whatever narrative it wants to play, so who knows how much truth is actually in that story. But with that being said, like, I guess, where's the white flag? You know what I mean? Like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, what do we do? You know?
I guess so. One thing I wanted to talk about before we went for the break that we didn't really touch upon yet was the cancel culture.
Yes.
And where we are currently, in that aspect, because, you know, on one hand, do I think that Dave Chappelle should be canceled for the things that he said present day and in the past? Absolutely not. But that's just me personally. It doesn't mean that I wasn't triggered by some of the things that he said. It doesn't mean that you know, I'm not understanding of other people's, you know, pain as well as my own. However, I don't think that we should just cancel people for a mistake that they may have made or their own personal opinions, you know, towards something. Do I think that sometimes, especially as a person with a platform, when we spread these kinds of messages, intentionally or unintentionally, you know, do they somehow ripple into society and can cause harm? Yes. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having these conversations.
Right.
So I think, it's just grounding yourself in the present and taking note of where we are. If you made a mistake, apologize for it. You know what I mean? And if you didn't, just open the space for conversation on how we can better understand one another. And I think that goes back to what you were saying earlier, even with the quote, you know, that he's saying that if I'm making fun of you, it's because I see myself in you. But at the same time, it's like, okay, so you say that you see an aspect of us in you, but are you listening, you know? And so I think that that's where the healing would begin, is him listening, because we hear you. You have the microphone, you know. You have the microphone, you have the stage, you have the podium, you have the attention of the masses, but are you listening to us, you know?
Yeah, I think you said something about cancel culture. Like, I don't agree with cancel culture personally, like not for all things. Like, I there are definitely people who have done things that are not remorseful about the things they do, and then they have, you know, reaped benefits from the things that they have done, so those things should be taken away. Absolutely. But then there are those people who are ignorant, misinformed, and they speak on what they know, and it's like, when do we teach to heal as opposed to punish without resolve? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's crazy. Like, I mean, even to bring it to my personal life, I just had this moment with my stepdad, honestly. My stepdad's definitely of the Dave Chappelle generation. And, you know, we had this really deep conversation that lasted for like 6 hours, no lie, like, for real. And a part of that was like, you know, just apologizing for the discord that's been between us and our lives, and like the miscommunication. And one thing that he said, that he kept saying, was like, you know, what can I say? Like, I was ignorant. you know, I didn't know these things. Like, you know, I did the best that I could. And I was like, you know what? I understand that 100%. I understand. You did the best you could with the knowledge that you had. You were a young parent. You only knew but so much. And so, you know, do I, you know, cancel him because, you know, he was ignorant? No, it's like, okay, you're acknowledging that you didn't know, and now you want to learn to do better so that we can be better. And I think that that's kind of what's missing when it comes to like cancel culture, is like we immediately go to like the extreme of like, you what? Oh no, as if everybody's just got a clean
here
slate.
today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah, you know what I mean. And it's like, but wait. Are we really learning anything, or are we just scaring people from actually speaking their mind? But they, you know, like we're not teaching people. We're just scaring them from telling the truth, which is not helping.
Because all in all, the jokes, the whole conversation, it's a teachable moment.
Right.
It's a teachable moment.
Right.
It's a do's and do nots.
Right.
And I think, yeah, like kind of moving away from cancel culture just for a second. In the last segment, the most recent segment, you know, that there were, in the closure, there were certain jokes that I just felt like, no. Like, we don't joke about people's genitalia. We don't, you know what I'm saying? Because we just are not there yet in even understanding trans people and how we are not defined by what's in between our legs, okay? And also that there are, okay, men with vaginas and women with penises, and it's okay. Our bodies are beautiful, they are desirable, and I don't think that it's just not necessary, and it's kind of tacky to use that as comedy, you know what I mean? But there, of course, are some things that we could evolve into being funny.
I love the way you said that. It's tacky.
Yeah.
I love that because that's where you have that like, okay, like this joke is cool. Like I understand where you're going, but this is like tacky. Yeah, like I love that. I can go on and on and on about it.
And then in the name of allyship, right? It's teetering, because on one aspect, you know, you're proclaiming, yeah, you know, I'm an ally and I have LGBT friends or what have you, but then you are literally taking some of the things that we are bashed for and highlighting it, you know? And I had some family, my sister, who was asking me specifically, you know, like, well, what did he say that was possibly violent? And my thing was, it's indirectly violent. You know what I'm saying? I don't think, of course, that was not his intentions. I don't think if it wasn't, he wouldn't have said it. You know, if he knew the magnitude of where these kinds of jokes can lead to. You understand what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
You describing a trans woman in the bathroom, pulling out her pink.
But wait. Here's another thing that I was literally about to bring that exact joke up, because what I found to be, on one hand, I was like, Dave, but then on the other hand, I was like, Dave, because in joking about the trans woman and then turning around and saying, now if it was a trans man, I'd be okay with that. And I was like, now we need to have that conversation. Dave, like because he talked about the trans woman coming into the bathroom, and he was like, you know, saying that how that would make him feel and how he would be uncomfortable. But if it was a trans woman and she backed up on the stall, like he'd just be like, oh, well, this brother is like it wouldn't be a big thing. And I was like, that's a whole other conversation right there. And I think it's smart because it is bringing an awareness to this focus on one thing versus the other. But at the same time, like, are you helping? You know what I mean? Like is this really helping? Like you say, like this is dangerous actually.
Yeah, because I don't think people are far into the understanding of our experience to where they can look at what he's saying and literally say, oh, this is a teachable moment. We're not there yet, because a lot of people still, I mean, do you know how many times, like in dating situations especially, where I'm asked about what's there or not there in between my legs? Do you know what I mean?
Wow.
And that is kind of sometimes the general consciousness from a cisgender person to a trans, a trans person about what's in between their legs, and so that's why I keep repeating myself to the notion of we're just not there. We're not there yet.
Right. Can I ask like a question? And if this is offensive or anything, like please just let me know. You know what I mean? I'm always open to learn. But my question, I guess, would be: is there space for true and honest curiosity? As a person myself, I'm going to ask questions because I'm just a curious person about everybody's experience that's different than mine. I'm always going to be like, wow, can you tell me more about that? Like, and when it comes to, trans bodies, and that's obviously something that is is sparks a curiosity, because it's like I this is unfamiliar to me. This is like new. This is like, wow. Is there space for the questions without offense?
Yes, I definitely do think that there's space for that. It just depends on, how, and also who you ask. Maybe some people, that topic in particular is off of the table, and then it depends on how what our relationship is like. I mean, if a stranger off the street or off of an app, just starts popping off these kind of questions, it's a little off-putting. But I think we have to tap deeper into that empathy and just socially, like knowing your comfort levels with certain individuals, cis, trans, or not. Like, right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Like, just always let me know. Like, if I, know what I'm saying. But that's just something that I thought of too, because, in relation to Dave, like, this is someone from a different generation. I'm saying it again, a different time, different lived experience, who has questions, and maybe it's going about them the wrong way, but, is there leniency for the questions, and is it fair to ask? I would assume somebody, I've had some of my straight friends definitely ask me questions about my, gay experience, you know what I'm saying, and just be like, how? And I guess maybe
keyword your friends. You know what I mean? This is what I'm saying, but you'll have because this is to some people still so new of an experience, even though it isn't very new.
Right.
They'll just ask you these outlandish things, especially when it comes to like a surgery or what have you. But if we went around asking cisgender women, all the time if they were interested in getting breast implants, or it's also the culture that we're in. It's like every time I open Instagram or YouTube, it's like some ad, you know what I'm saying, depending on your algorithm, probably, about surgeries and things like that. So it could also just be where we are as a culture with like body surgeries, reconstruction in general. But I do think that it has more to do with the connectivity with like you said, like the curiosity about trans bodies, So I do think that there's definitely ways to answer those questions, to ask those questions respectfully. Respectfully.
Absolutely, respectfully.
But he wasn't asking a question.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Very true.
He was literally making a joke and a comment. It was just and then the whole like continuing to compare, what he was comparing, the genitalia of a trans woman, the reconstructed, corrective surgery, like metaphorically as like plant-based burgers versus.
See, okay, that was one of those moments where
I can laugh. Dang. So the funny thing is, I'm smiling. I'm probably smiling and laughing about it now. More so like at your reaction, because I'm realizing as I'm bringing it up, you're lighting up and you're like, wow, like he really said those things.
Yeah, no, that definitely was there. Like again, those were those moments where I was like, when he said it, I literally stopped and I was like, Dave, like, no.
I'm sorry, I'm probably peeking with the mic again. Am I peeking again?
I was like, Dave, no, and other jokes about other body things that happen between cisgender women and trans women, and it was just like, Dave, that's just not. Don't go there. Like that is that line that's a little too far. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And also, you're in a way like pitting women against women.
Right. As if the argument between cisgender women and transgender women need any more ammunition. And you give them one, yeah. That's
such a good word, DeShawn. Ammunition. Mm-hmm. That goes back to the question that my sister proposed to me about, like, well, I want to know how is it violence, and this is why. Yeah,
absolutely. Like we live in New York. Okay, we are the epicenter of other. You know what I mean? Like you in New York, it just is what it is. But the Midwestern, who is in a town of 10,000, is not having the same exposure at all. And then you have someone like Dave Chappelle, who they may look up to, and then now they are basing their opinions on these things, and then will go out in the world and feel some type of way, or feel like they can make the same kind of joke towards the same group of people when they're not even closely related to the same team that Dave is on, even as an ally.
But the joke is not new,
right?
Like,
of course,
it's it's in a way just a reinterpretation of what's already in the minds of people as a joke. You know what I'm saying?
So is it fair? So Dave is basically calling out everybody's bullshit, for lack of a better phrase. But God, it's so complicated, because like I understand both sides of I understand everybody's point of view. Like you know what I mean? Like I just take myself out of it, and that because even when I watched the shows, I was like, I have to watch this like as if I like with no opinion whatsoever. You know what I mean? Because I could have let the media completely drive a narrative for me before I even watched it. And I even had friends who were trying to have conversations with me about it, and I kept saying like, let me watch it first so I can have my own real valid opinion. And I watched it, and I came up with my own opinion, and I understood where one side of the community was coming from. I understood where he was coming from. I understood what was missing in the mid gap. I just don't know how to fix it. You know what I mean? Especially like, I'm just little old me. Like, it's not like I could call Dave up on the phone like, Dave, let me explain to you, like, the missing link in this guy. I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's like, I guess it's just important for us to continue to have conversations like we're having, where like we can't be afraid to talk about this stuff,
right?
At all. Like we have to get ugly about it. You know what I mean? So that we can find a healing for the next generation, so that they know, like obviously the same thing happened, with racism at some point. I mean, we still got a ways to go there, child, but we've made progress in the sense that like the generation that we grew up in a completely different world than our parents did as far as like race relations are concerned, and we were able to take what we learned to teach the next generation, and it's just getting better and better and better. And now here we are with the LGBT community, and like we said last time, like we are the elders and we're teaching and moving forward. So we just got a lot of work to do. Saying all of that to say, we just got a lot of work to do. Like a lot
of work. But like I said, in a very unusual way, the positive thing is that it creates the foundation for a conversation.
True.
It creates that framework to say, hey, these are some things that we need to talk about, and that can just be the starting point. Because again, like we said, if we go back to some of the other segments that he had, he's like, look, I don't really understand this. Like I'm confused by it. So comedy is his medium, and so he's you know, I guess he's going to explore this through a comedic lens because that's who he is. And so he's only doing his, you know, what he came to do.
Right. And
what he came to do.
And I think inherently he thinks he's doing the right thing. And in I mean, I guess in some ways, yeah, like, because we're having this conversation about it.
We're having the conversation
right now,
here and outside of this, you know. You know, I think some people already, like, I have some people on my timeline that's like, all right, we need to bury the hatchet. Like, I'm tired of hearing about this. Like, we just need to talk about something else, you know. But
we can't.
Here on Unbinding the Binary, this is what we do. We unpack, you know, gender identity, inclusivity, and most importantly, the healing. The healing is what's most important. And so...
That's the point.
Yeah, that's the point.
I mean,
you gotta have the conversation in order to initiate that healing.
Exactly. I mean, this is obviously going to be an ongoing conversation, like, because we can't be solved in 45 minutes by any means. You know, but at least we can, you know, open up the door to have more conversations about it and continue to find the answers that we all seek for, you know, a better tomorrow.
Right.
So
I really think it's emotion.
Yeah.
It's definitely emotion.
Yeah. Well, let's take a break and child, let's take a breather. The Oracle Shop is a metaphysical boutique located in the heart of Bushwick, Brooklyn. 164 Wilson, Brooklyn, New York, 11237. The Oracle Shop. Well, this is clearly going to be an ongoing conversation. It's not something that can be solved in a 45-minute conversation. This is generations of healing that needs to take place.
Yeah, it's a lot to cover.
But I do hope that Dave understands that we want him to listen to us just as much as he wants us to listen to him. And perhaps we can find that middle ground and come together for...
And one day laugh together.
Yes, exactly.
Laugh together instead of shouting at one another.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm tired of shouting.
It's too loud. It's too loud. The media, the headlines, it's just like,
okay,
let's lay it to rest for now.
The days pre-social media, we're in that category now.
Oh my God. Who's in that category?
Speaking of,
yes. We have an Instagram now.
Yes.
So you guys can follow us at Unbinding.the.binary on Instagram.
Yes, and you can email us at unbinding.the.binary.podcast@gmail.com.
Yes,
right?
you can.
Unbinding.the.binary.podcast@gmail.com. There we go. Bingo.
We got it. There's a lot of dots there.
A lot of dots. a lot of things to cover.
Until next time, you guys.
All right. Thank you for tuning in.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram at unbinding.the.binary. Email us at unbinding.the.binary.podcast@gmail.com.